So what are two of the best job fields in the American economy? I'm going to tell you coming up next. I've got some special guests who are winners big time in these areas. It's going to enlighten you and enrich you. Helping you win at work. This is the Ken Coleman Show. You guessed it. I'm Ken. Excited to have you with us. I want you to get better so that your income gets bigger. Let's get right to it. I said we're going to talk about two of the hottest job fields there are. Let's go big tech because it's big money and big opportunity. My first guest, you know him well, and if you don't know him, you're going to be happy to know him today. He is the CEO of Bethel Tech, Ryan Collins. All right, Ryan, great to have you back. So I want to start off with the current job market.
Sure.
All right, let's talk real jobs, real paychecks. That's what people want. I'm holding in my hands here an article, and this is an NBC Miami article, but this is just a headline: most in-demand work from anywhere jobs that companies are hiring for in 2024. Now, they're not all in tech, but as I'm looking at the top 10, I see data analyst, DevOps engineer, software engineer, product manager, which a lot of times that's a big tech job, if I'm right.
Yep.
So here we go. Just a quick glance. 4 out of the top 10 are in tech.
Yeah.
So set the scene for us. This is obviously right out of the headlines. Is this a surprise to you? Is this going to continue to be the norm no matter what the job economy looks like?
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of tech jobs is that so many of them, especially on the software side, you can do from anywhere, you know? So, and when we had so many people be forced to go remote, and then after everything opened back up, a lot of them felt like, hey, this is great. So I can still do these things wherever I'm at. And data analytics, I would say, of all 10 on that list, that's the one. If you have a passion for tech, get into that because that's going to explode.
Why is that? Give us a snapshot.
Because you typically are using Python as your foundational language for data analytics.
Okay.
And Python is the language that is the building block for AI and machine learning.
Okay.
So you want to get ahead of the game. And we're probably 10 to 15 years away from AI being adopted on a mass scale. We're starting to see it now with ChatGPT 4.0, and it's remarkable the things it can do. But I think society as a whole is a little, hesitant, and also they take their time in making that big of a jump. But if you can get into data analytics, that's going to set you up massively for the future.
So what I'm hearing is data analytics is super versatile.
Yes.
Gives you upward mobility. Dare I say, makes you recession-proof.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's the big talk right now is that AI is going to take a lot of the jobs away, including in the tech space. You know, there's a program right now called Devin that AI is building websites and things like that. To be able to get out in front of it, to have that strong foundation that you can build on, it's going to be huge. So you see any of the reports from like CompTIA, Python is one of the most in-demand languages for the future. You still have JavaScript. I mean, if you look at the job market right now, and JavaScript is the most in-demand software development language out there, and that's not going to go away anytime soon. So right. I want people to take a breath. The sky is not falling, but I do think it's important to set that strong foundation for you so you can continue to learn.
Yeah.
And data analytics, it doesn't surprise me that that's on the list.
And just one other quick point here I want to get from you on AI. I have heard from you, I have heard from other guests on this show, and as I'm reading, that while AI's advancement might change the way of work, you're always going to need human talent to make AI do what it promises it can do. Is that true or false?
Yeah. I mean, you've got to have humans that are training it, and a lot of AI is really just a reflection of the humans that are training it.
That's exactly right.
So what will happen, and anytime we have a massive disruptive technology and we feel like there's a lot of jobs that are going to go to the wayside, there are also a lot of jobs that get created as well.
Exactly.
So,
it's going to spin off.
Yeah. And, I think it was McKinsey said that by the year 2030, that 85% of the jobs that will exist then have not been created yet. Right. So that's the massive potential. Okay. But I think even if you just get a foundational knowledge of just software development and build on that. I mean, you talk about this, you have to keep on learning.
That's it. That's exactly right.
When you do, that's fun, especially if you like what you're doing.
Okay, great segue here. You gave me a segue. You didn't even know it. let's talk about investing in yourself.
Yeah.
And I've said this a million times. I'm not going to stop saying it, that as I get better, my paycheck gets bigger.
Yeah.
Okay. This is just a function of always learning. So let's talk about tech degrees versus tech programs, like a Bethel Tech, and there's a myriad of things out there. Walk us through the ROI, the return on investment for a 4-year degree, even at a sizzle kind of name brand school versus, and we'll just juxtapose Bethel Tech, a 9-month program. The ROI, walk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to disparage degrees. I think that there are programs that you want to get into that a degree makes a lot of sense if you're, getting a medical degree or as a lawyer or things like that. And even there are some tech programs that I think would be beneficial if you're getting into like electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, things like that. But the reality is, I mean, one of the major universities here in Nashville, I mean, they're $100,000 a year. $400,000 for 4 years of your time, and you have programs like Bethel Tech that we have a 15-week data analytics program that's highly employable. The things that we were just talking about, 15 weeks, it's $5,000. Yeah, but the beauty of this is that once you get a job as a data analyst, then you can persist on into our data science program. You pick up where you left off.
And what would be a starting point? Let's map this out for folks. So if they do, for an instance, a $5,000 program over 15 weeks, what's a range of income that they could immediately
data analytics, 75 to 90.
Wow.
Yeah.
Out of the gate.
Right out of the gate.
Okay. With a path to what? You're saying you could jump back in data science.
Yeah. I mean, you start as a junior data analyst, and then you continue to grow from there. And then once you get to be like a mid-level data scientist, we're talking $250,000.
Wow.
It's incredible. And you don't have to have a tech background to do this. 99% of our students have no background in tech before they go through.
Wow.
So the idea is you are unbundling the degree. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
You're stair-stepping. So get a credential that's employable, $5,000, 15 weeks, get a job, then continue on to the next part of that as the data science portion of it. Your company may help you pay for it because it's job related. And then if you want to continue to get a degree because there's some leadership opportunities as your career progression model with the company, they said, we'd really like you to have a bachelor's or something. That program articulates, 25 to 30 credits into a computer science degree.
So see, that's beautiful. It's transferable.
Yeah.
So this is the way that most Americans don't realize.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of parents, and I want you to react to this. Okay. New Gallup data came out, 46%. This is a stark number, I think. I want you to fully react to this. 46% of American parents are now saying, Ryan, that they prefer that their kids not go to a traditional 4-year school. So the tide is absolutely turning.
Yeah.
And this is just something that a lot of parents aren't realizing, that this is a fabulous professional path and could lead to being an executive and all the things that every parent kind of wants for their kid.
Yeah.
This is a path to not only prosperity, but also to professional influence.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Absolutely. And by the way, it's not just parents, it's employers who are saying, these jobs that we've required a bachelor's degree for so long, we're not doing that anymore. We're not seeing the ROI on our end.
Right.
So I think there's a few things that parents are looking at. One, the cost of tuition is skyrocketing and the ROI is decreasing. 2, they don't like what they're seeing on college campuses. Let's just be real. You don't have to look far in the news and see some really crazy stuff. Yeah. It's madness.
Yeah, you're not wading through protesters on your way to an online class.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like one of the things that has happened over the last few years is that parents have had an up-close look at their kids' education, be it K-12 or college education, because of the forced online modality when everything was shut down. And they didn't like what they saw. And then they go back to campus and they're like, I definitely don't want my kids to be thrown into that mess. I mean, the fact that Jewish students and professors are being blocked from getting into the classroom at UCLA, that's insane.
Yeah.
That can't, parents aren't going to put up with that.
No.
That is hate that does not,
right.
that has no place in our society.
That's right.
Then you have the Title IX overhaul where you now have transgender males that can dominate female sports and take scholarships away from real women.
Right.
Enough is enough.
Yeah.
So you combine that, the social aspect, with the fact that the ROI has decreased significantly.
Yeah.
And that leads to it's ripe for disruption. So programs like Bethel Tech, high moral conviction and high skill.
Right.
That's what will rise to the top.
Yeah. So what we're hearing here is folks, understand that I think this is like the movie The Perfect Storm, where two storms come together.
Yeah.
You've got, it's not worth the money. And now with all the social crap going on, it's not worth the hassle.
Yeah.
Boy, that's a deadly combination. We'll see how it works out.
Yeah.
Okay, let's stay here on the opportunity for professional growth in tech. One of the things that I think is amazing about Bethel Tech is that you guys don't just train for the tech side. You do focus on soft skills. And I'm bringing this up because it feels like you have a strategy going on, and it feels like you know why you're doing this, and I want you to speak to this. How important is it that somebody in tech also have a good tool belt of soft skills?
Yeah.
What's the professional payoff for that?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. We launched our first cohort in January 2018, and we're the first and only Christian coding boot camp in the world. So we knew there'd be churches and ministries that would be cheering us on. One of the unexpected impacts, we're 3.5 hours east of Silicon Valley, the most influential zip code in the world. And we started getting invited to all the major tech companies. And it wasn't the tech skills that piqued their curiosity. That was just a prereq to get on their radar. It was the fact that we taught things like teamwork and good communication skills, conflict resolution, integrity, a healthy relationship and community. These are all biblical values.
That's right.
But they're all the same. They're the same soft skills that companies are investing millions of dollars to improve their workplace culture. So we had a seat at the table at the biggest tech companies in the world, and even though they couldn't align with our faith, they saw us as one of the first coding schools that was intentionally focused on the character piece of it. And so I think that that's the thing that they want to see. I get, on a consistent basis, hiring managers reach out to us after they've hired our grads and said, your graduates are the new standard upon which we measure future hires.
Wow.
It's the skill and it's the character. Integrity isn't just how you treat others, it's part of it, but it's also how you treat your employer.
Right.
That you have a strong work ethic, you show up every day and you work hard and you get better and better. That's integrity.
All right, that's really good. Hey, don't move. We're going to be right back with more from Bethel Tech CEO Ryan Collins. Hey, high school seniors and parents of high school seniors, it's almost graduation time. And if you're not sure about next steps, I want you to listen to this. Coding skills are essential in today's workforce. And my friends at Bethel Tech can help you start a new career really fast and do it cheap. It only takes 9 months to complete a Bethel Tech course in UI, UX design, full stack development, data science, or cybersecurity. And your young person can get over 1,000 hours of experience in a collaborative environment and then get placed. The average starting salary for a junior developer is $66,000. And the field is projected to grow by 22% over the next 5 years. Software development is a career with an enormously bright future. And right now, Bethel Tech is offering you 10% off if you watch or listen to The Ken Coleman Show and you pay cash. So go to betheltech.net/Ken Coleman, betheltech.net/Ken Coleman right now for details. Terms and conditions do apply. How important is it that a software engineer or someone who's a data analyst, they're kind of in that tech job, for them to break out of the stereotype that you're weird and you watch Star Wars all the time and you're all by yourself? I mean, I'm not in any way saying this is real, but it exists. Yes?
Yeah.
All right. So I do want to talk about this. How do those soft skills and a focus on that give a person more upward mobility because of the simple personal branding?
Yeah. Well, I would say that tech education is the great equalizer. You don't have to have a 4-year degree. It actually meets people where they're at. You don't have to have a background in tech. I mean, we look at kind of the images in Hollywood from the 80s, Anthony Michael Hall, building a robot in his parents' basement, things like that. But that's a stereotype that's just not true. And so there are a lot of people who think that they can't do it because they don't look like that person that they've seen on the films. And so I think it's really important, though, that you see, we have 38% of our students are female. That compared to 17% of computer science degrees at universities being female. We have, 40% of our students are African American, compared to 8% of the total tech talent population being African American.
Right.
It's really important that you understand, this is for everyone. And every company, to some degree, considers itself a tech company now. So we think of IBM, we think of Apple, we think of Facebook and Google, but it's also Chipotle, Bank of America, Walmart. All of these companies are falling over themselves to find qualified tech talent, which, by the way, the Bureau of Labor Statistics will show you that by 2026, so less than 2 years, there will be a 1.2 million job shortfall in tech and there's just not enough talent to fill those
So
roles.
you know what that means?
Yeah. Opportunity.
Income.
Income. Yep.
Opportunity, yes. But because of the demand, you will see a spike in the salary and overall compensation packages for people who can win in tech.
You're absolutely right. You know what's wild too is that there's such a demand that 50% of companies, I think this was a Gartner statistic that said that, only 29% of the software developers that they hire actually have the full qualifications that they need. So they are but they want to just get you in the door.
So what would be missing then in a situation like that?
It varies.
Okay, gotcha.
But they're like, okay, they don't actually meet the exact need,
but they still want you.
But if I can get you in the door,
right,
and you can drink from a fire hose for a year,
right,
then we feel like we can get you there pretty quickly.
Wow. And by the way, this emphasizes, this is a great real life scenario.
Mm-hmm.
This emphasizes those soft skills.
Yeah.
If you come in and they already go, look, we need a body in here with a pulse who can do some basics, and we're going to teach them the rest, but you're actually likable on top of that.
Yeah.
Watch out.
Yeah.
All right, that leads us to, I've got to ask you this. Every time you're on, I want you to tell us new stories of real people who have listened to the show, watched the show. They've called you guys at Bethel Tech.
Yeah.
They've kicked the tires. They made the sacrifices, whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
I want to hear a couple of wins. Give me a couple of fun stories.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one, and this is a good segue on that character and promotion. We had a gentleman who was a construction worker, and he lost his job. It was a downturn in the economy where he was living, and he decided to go through Bethel Tech. Never had any tech background. Went through the program. He gets hired on about 2.5 months after he graduated, making $70,000 as a UI UX designer. And 3 weeks into his job, the VP calls him into his office. Now, he has no grid for this, and he's like, oh my gosh, did I accidentally do something wrong? And so they're like, do you know why you're in here? And like, I honestly don't know why. He's like, well, we just wanted you to know that you have been such a benefit to our organization from your skill, but also what you've done to improve our culture. We're going to give you a promotion, a $30,000 promotion. 3 weeks on the job. Ken.
Wow.
So he goes from
laid off construction worker,
which he was at most making probably $40,000, and $70,000 job. Then 3 weeks later, a $30,000 promotion and be making over $100,000. Yeah.
Now, what was his specialty? Or was he
he did UI UX and he did full stack.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I think the job that he got was UI UX, and they loved him. They're like, man, we want to invest in you. Like, this isn't like, we see so much potential in you and how you treat others
100%.
And how you communicate.
Wow.
I actually saw him. I didn't know the story. I saw him at a Home Depot, and he's like, Ryan. And I was, whenever you get that, you're like, oh.
Yeah,
you know, you never know.
Right.
He's like, and he's like, he started to tear up.
Sure.
And then I started to tear up.
Of course.
He's like, hey, I'm here. I'm like, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, I'm actually fixing. We just bought a new house, and I'm installing a new sink or something like that. He's like, I bought a new house because I got a job and then I got a promotion.
Crazy.
He's like, I would have never been able to do this if it wasn't for Bethel Tech.
Oh, it's real stuff right there.
Yeah, it's real.
The opportunities are there. It's just commitment of time and money based on belief.
Yeah.
You've got to believe that these opportunities are there. You got another one for us?
Well, I do. I have a lady who was a single mom, and she had a kind of a difficult situation. She actually came out of an abusive relationship. She was 5 months pregnant at the time that she had to leave that situation, and she had no home. And she's staying at her friend's house, sleeping on the floor. She heard about Bethel Tech. She felt like the Lord tell her, hey, you need to reach out to them. She didn't have any money. We just so happened to get some scholarship funds in, and we were able to scholarship her to go through our program. And then 3 months after she graduated, she was making $150,000. And she told me, she's like, Ryan, I'm not supposed to be here, right? I could have been dead.
Yeah.
She's like, but I'm here because God is good and because you dared to build something that no one else, no one else has ever built before. And she's this really gifted communicator. She's like starting to speak and, share her story and everything. It's like, it's much more than just being a technologist, So those are the types of stories that we get in over and over that we get super excited about. Yeah. And there's so much out there, I think, people get scared because they see the headlines, well, tech layoffs, all that stuff. But I will tell you that, the market was so hot for the last 3 years. It had to cool down. Yeah. It's still projected 25% growth in the next 10 years. Yeah. And the top 10 companies that had IT layoffs this last year, if you look back at their total employment from 2020, they actually have 150,000 more employees than they did 4 years ago. Yeah. So they kept a lot, but it just had to cool a little bit. Yeah. But don't let that scare you away from going after. This is still the hottest job opportunity 100%. That's out there.
And the opportunities are there, and we're not saying that it's going to happen for everybody, but you got a construction worker laid off, goes from 40 to 100,000. You got a single mom who's just barely making it and making 150,000, both of them with massive opportunities. Here's why we have this conversation. Number one, I believe that tech is the new trade. Yeah. It just is, and you don't have to spend a ton of money. You don't have to go in debt. You don't have to spend 4 years. You don't have to be a tech genius. There's a lot of reasons right there as to why I want people who are saying, you know what, I want to take control of my professional future. If I get better, my paycheck gets bigger. Bethel Tech is that option. Tell people, give us 20 seconds, couple opportunities right now, and then how they reach out to you.
Yeah, well, we have this wonderful relationship with you, so they can go to betheltech.net/Ken Coleman, and we have a discount for individuals that are following your show. We have programs that are 15 weeks long, $5,000, and we have programs that are 36 weeks long, $15,000 to $17,000. 80% of our students are getting jobs within 3 months of graduation. And it is something. There are a lot of coding schools out there. There are great coding schools. Yeah. So, but this is something that you come to that's bigger than yourself. Yeah. Like the things that you receive that you get to carry in, and you get to be the light into areas that sometimes feel a little dark. Yeah. So if you can help others, and you're being blessed, and now you get to be a blessing to others. That's really our whole philosophy.
Yeah, love it. He is Ryan Collins, betheltech.net/Ken Coleman, for possibly your new path, or your loved one's new path, or your dear friend's new path. Great stuff, pal. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Brendan, always good to have you on the show, and I love your approach, the way you think. We're blessed to be, I'm blessed to be in meetings with you. You're not the traditional CTO. And I think it's because of your varied background, but I want you to speak to your day-to-day role. Yeah. And as it pertains to what we're talking about today with project management, you and I have done a course together.
Yeah, we have.
What does that look like day-to-day for you as you're interacting with PMs and the like?
Yeah. So, in terms of my role here, most of the time when you think about technology leader, you're usually thinking about like the 1980s computer nerd, long hair, long fingernails, likes to keep themselves in the dark, right? And the reality is that's really changed in the last 10 or 20 years. And what CTOs are responsible for now is a lot different. Yeah. What we used to be responsible for is kind of living in the basement and keeping the servers up. Yeah. And really what my responsibility here at Ramsey, a really key part of it is to help us drive our consumer product strategy. Right. So, so what does that mean? And then how does the job end up changing? So it is absolutely, it's still servers, it's still software development, but it extends to other things. It extends to, like product management. Like, what are we building? What's valuable? What do customers want? And then the piece that we're here to talk about today, which is project management, which is like, okay, if we've decided a direction and what we're going to go do and what we're going to go build, how do we, build that really efficiently and quickly?
Yeah. I want to dive into this because I think I've got a theory and I want to run it by you. But before I throw the theory at you, okay, let's talk about all the different types of project managers. You can't just throw project manager out as a role or a career path and just leave it as that simple. It's varied throughout all types of work, correct?
Right. Well, I mean, the role of project manager has probably been around since like the 1940s or 50s.
Right.
You know, so obviously it's evolved over the years, and it's also become a lot of different things. So like when I think about it, I think about like if you met somebody and they said, I'm a pilot. Okay, well that actually can mean a lot of things. You could be a pilot of like a supersonic jet. You can be a pilot of a helicopter. You can be a pilot of a drone. You know, when you're a pilot of a drone, you're not even inside the vehicle, right? So I think it's kind of the same thing with project management, which there are a lot of different kinds. And if I had to make it like wildly oversimplify it, I kind of think about it like shapes. There's two kinds of project managers. There's squares and there's circles.
Okay, I like that.
And you know, when I think about the square, like the nature of a project manager who's a square is the person who's like looking for the perfect plan. Like they are a real. They want to have comprehensive ideas in their mind. They want to get a full picture and full understanding of the thing that they're doing, and they're trying to like create that perfect plan. And if you were like hanging around one of these people, you would probably hear them say something like, you know, measure twice and cut once.
Yes,
that's kind of how they're wired as a person, right? And so like the industries that you would see kind of that square project manager show up in would be like it'd probably be like construction, or finance or banking, insurance or manufacturing, or even like managing live events.
Right.
Things, live events is a great example because it's one of those things where you got one chance to get it right.
Yes.
So you better have the perfect plan.
That's right.
Right. So that's kind of the square. And then the other kind of project manager I like to think about, I call them the circle, and they're a little bit of a different personality type, a little bit of a different orientation. Like their nature is to learn and adapt from their surroundings, right? So it's not about having the perfect plan. It's about just kind of like moving through the world and learning and adapting to the circumstances that are presenting themselves. And so you'll see that a lot more kind of in my world, which is, you know, technology, software development, new product development, things like that, where there's a lot of exploration kind of baked in. And so, you know, if you were hanging around one of these kind of circle project managers, you would probably hear them say something like, you know, my goal is to fail early and often. You know, so there's a huge difference between who's somebody who's wired, and you to hear him say something like measure twice and cut once. They're almost like more of a perfectionist. And then you think about that circle, you know, project manager that's, you know, let's fail early and often. Like,
I
let's
love
just,
that.
You know.
Okay, so I want to stay here. That was really great. I love that people can grab that. So let's talk about the skill sets,
right,
that are different.
Yeah.
There's probably some bleed over,
right?
No question about that.
Yeah,
but is it more soft skill difference there, or is it hard skill, or is it a toss up?
Well, I mean, I think it's both. We can hit both of those. So
let's talk about the squares. What are those top skills? For
the square, you know, I would think that in terms of soft skills, for the square, they've got to be like, they have to be very decisive. They've got to, you know, have a very accelerated ability to walk into like confusing situations. They have to deal with chaos pretty well. Yeah. So I would say like they're kind of a juggler of sorts. So a lot of squares get brought into case scenarios where there's like 1,000 things happening, in the leadership in that situation like doesn't know how to wrangle it and pull it together. So they're not really trying to figure out the right thing to do. They're just trying to figure out how to kind of wrangle the crazy, you know?
Right.
And so from a soft skill perspective, the stuff that would come along with that would be like great communication skills, right? Even arguably like negotiation skills, because in situations where there's like a lot of things going on, you got a lot of crazy, you have to be good at kind of walking people through decisions around like, we can do this versus we can't do this, or, you know, help people make trade-off decisions and stuff like that. So from a soft skill perspective, I really think that that communication is right on top. From a hard skill perspective, like really having a masterful ability to do planning is
I would
by
think
far
so.
the
I would
number
think
one.
analytical skills are huge there because of what you're talking about. They're coming in, and there's a lot of complexity.
Yeah.
They've got to figure out what the simple solution is.
Yeah, you have to step into an environment where there's a lot of things going on, and you almost have to have the ability to like create a picture in your mind of what are all these things going on, and how are we going to navigate through them in a way that we get the results that we
All right, let's look at the circle. Give me some of the hard skills and soft skills.
Yeah, for I think for the circle in terms of soft skills, this person is they're by nature far more focused.
Yeah.
So instead of like trying to create a map, boil the ocean, a map of the universe, like the squares put in, this person by their nature is far more focused. Like they want to deal with like a far more finite problem. They want to dig way deeper into it.
Okay.
And they want to create like a very specific result. And so the way that you do that, it shows up a whole lot differently than the square, right? So if I'm somebody who has been given a very specific problem, I'm spending a lot of time like looking at the team itself. Like, what are their habits? Where are their inefficiencies?
Right.
What are the blockers that these people experience? And like, so when I look at the circle project manager, they almost have like more of a coach feel to them because they're really spending a lot of time kind of looking at the field and paying attention to what's going on, and they're really trying to like coach those players to adopt the kind of habits that are going to create like the most the most consistent successful plays that end up winning the game.
Okay.
So they're far more of like a coaching personality than they are.
And how much does the soft skill of adaptability, which has made the top skill, most desirable skill for hiring managers 2 out of the last 3 years, according to LinkedIn.
Oh,
so
LinkedIn is saying that project managers.
No, not project managers. LinkedIn is saying overall, the most desirable skill in the workplace for hiring managers 2 out of the last 3 years is adaptability.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Of course. So that's blanket across all jobs. However, I am curious with I love the delineation here. Is adaptability a must for a project manager, whether you're a square or a circle?
Well,
it feels like it is.
It is, but it's different. So for a square, the adaptability is more like we've got a changing surface area all the time. Like all the things that we have to deal with is changing. For the circle, the adaptability comes in terms of like I can't walk into problem solving with a fixed solution already in my mind. So oftentimes with the square, it's like I got to identify all the crazy. I got to figure out the thing that we're going to do first. I got to get a plan, and we got to like execute on that plan. For the circle, adaptability is different, which is I need to walk into a problem and actually learn from the problem. Like I need to better understand the problem. I need to understand how the customers are experiencing the problem. I need to understand how the team is struggling to solve the problem. And my adaptability is about like changing the ground rules in which the team plays and changing the processes that we use in order to like create the most success. So adaptability is key, but that square is like wrangling, and that circle is focusing. Yeah, and they're very different things. And I'll say this: one of the biggest problems is that when you have a square who believes they're a circle or a circle who believes they're a square, because I have seen a lot of people get frustrated over the years because they kind of put on that hat that says project manager and just assume that they're wired to do either one of them. And if you don't really know who you are, how you're wired, you're going to end up applying for a job you believe you are capable of doing, and then end up in a set of circumstances where you're getting judged for like a set of skills that you don't even have.
And this is why this tool is very helpful. And I'm not kidding, because if you look at the methodology of assessment, I want you to pick up on what Brendan is saying. You've got to look at those talents and look at everything above average. So your super talents and your solid talents, and it's got to match the actual job description. And that's how you don't make that mistake that Brendan is talking about. The Get Clear assessment is a wonderful way to, again, get self-awareness. That's all it is. All right, here's a theory I want to float by you.
Yep.
And I've said this on the show. So this is kind of exciting for me because if you think I'm wrong,
then
I'm going to have to decide whether or not you're right and then adjust accordingly. But I have said this from the hip on the show many times.
All right.
And I really do want you, And folks, he's my friend and he's a straight shooter. So this is real. He'll tell me if he disagrees.
All right, let's see.
Here it is. Here's my theory. Don't be.
Okay.
I believe that project management positions, being a project manager, is one of the most versatile professional options that you can have, because I believe that it gives you the opportunity to go all the way to the C-suite. If you have that, I think it just prepares you in a way that if you really want to ascend up to a C-suite level, which you're in, and you hire, fire, you lead a lot of people. So I have said this. Is that true? And why do you if you believe that I'm right, why do you think I'm right, that it is so versatile in preparing you for, I think, executive level opportunities?
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. And I think that,
because I didn't have any data.
Yeah.
It was just my gut.
Well, so I think probably the first thing that makes that true is, as a project manager, you're actually not a leader.
Right.
So you're in a constant situation from the first day on the job where you have to figure out how to lead when you're not in charge.
That's
right.
So true.
And so when you're having to figure out how to lead when you're not in charge, you don't have any authority to leverage. You don't have any positional power to leverage. And so what it forces you to do, like now, there's going to be lots of project managers out there that never mastered the skills to allow them to like elevate the way that you're describing. But for those who are like really hungry and they're like, I want to go somewhere,
right.
How they're going to treat project management is an opportunity to master their understanding of people.
Yes.
They're going to understand like what motivates them, what demotivates them, how to put ideas in front of people in a way that inspires them versus like causes them to experience fear.
Let me give you a word to sum up what you're saying. It teaches you how to wield influence.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you do not have it from the authority position, as you're saying, and this is the magic.
Yeah.
When you can influence without authority, now you're on your way to true leadership.
Well, and what I'd say is I think there's the other side of that coin where it's not just influence, it's also credibility.
Right.
So once you have really kind of...
well, there is no influence without credibility.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you've got to have that. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Credibility must come first.
Yeah. So, the project managers that I see, that when they sit down with a group of people and they're not trying to leverage... they're not trying to be like the process cop. They're just sitting down with a group of people and be like, all right, what do we need to solve? How can I serve the team to make it happen? How can I help bring insights about how we can collaborate with each other better? What are the things that are standing on our way that I can go advocate for the team and other parts of the organization in order to, clear out blockers and things like that? Like, develop and a big part of a project manager is actually working outside of your team with other parts of the organization. So it gives you a far bigger view of how a company operates than, for example, if you were a software engineer or anything else, where you're just on a team. So it gives you a lot of mobility across the organization, which can be really frustrating at first. But if you begin to like build that credibility, you begin to build that influence, you start to really master, people skills and how to talk with people, how to negotiate, how to get, trade-offs figured out. You can become, as an individual contributing project manager, an incredible force.
No question.
For good inside an organization.
You gave me something here. You said, and I want people to hear this. I think you fail if, as a project manager, you turn into a process cop.
Yes.
So I wrote down, when you said process cop, I wrote down process cop versus people mover.
Yeah.
You want to be a people mover.
Yeah.
I think of people movers in the airport. Those things are pretty fantastic. You step on it and it just takes you where you need to go.
Right.
And therein lies, I think, that the talent of a great project manager is assisting the movement forward.
Yeah.
Because you're not the leader.
Right.
It's really good. Okay, one other question I got to ask you before we let you go, because I think it's on the top of mind of everybody. It's in the headlines every day.
Yep.
And I've not talked about it on the show. AI.
Yeah.
How will it impact project management?
Yes, I think there's a quick answer to this, which is I think it will impact the square, but it won't impact the circle.
Okay, how?
Because the square is about taming chaos. It's about understanding a lot of details and bringing them, summarizing that information and helping make decisions. That's actually something that AI by design is really designed. It does well, which is look at an enormous amount of information and summarize it, right? The Circle project manager, it's far more of a people-oriented and creative function where you're not just like looking at data, you're actually synthesizing. You're synthesizing between the ideas. And I think AI eventually will redefine all of our jobs, but I think it's gonna impact the procedural jobs before it impacts the creative jobs.
Okay.
So
I agree with that. We're going to see that in administrative roles as well.
Right.
Those are the ones that are going to get in trouble when just menial administrative tasks can be gobbled up by AI. Yeah. Wow, really interesting stuff.
Can I offer one more bit of advice to people before we wrap up? And I would say if you want to pursue a project management role, one of the biggest problems that you'll encounter as a project manager is you will go work at a place that doesn't know how to help you grow. Mm-hmm. It's a big problem. So you'll see companies that just have a lot of chaos, and they're like, we just need to bring in somebody that's hyper organized to like tame the chaos. And that's awesome. It can make you feel significant, and it can make you feel like you're needed. But when you're interviewing for these kinds of jobs, try to get an understanding of, is the person that you're going to be reporting to actually going to be able to teach you and help you grow? Because as a project manager, if you just live in your natural human instincts and just your goal is just to like do the stuff that makes sense to you, you're going to live inside your own universe. You're not really going to grow. So my advice to people is, to the degree that you can, find companies that understand how to like really highly leverage project managers, and ask people in interviews like, well, what do you know about project management, and how can you help me get better at doing it myself? And then you end up in an environment where not only are you just helping to deliver value for the business that you're working for, but you're actually growing as a person and growing in your craft, which is a
really good word. Really good word. He's Brendan Wojtko. He is our Chief Technology Officer here at Ramsey Solutions. Really bright guy. Brendan, always good to see you, friend, and we hope to have you back.
All right. Love to do it. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Good stuff. Well, big thanks to Brendan Wojtko for being with us. Brendan's a great guy. And again, remember, hang out with us, because when you do, we're going to help you get better so your paycheck gets bigger. This is The Ken Coleman Show. Press on.
Thanks for listening to The Ken Coleman Show. For more, you can find the show on demand wherever you listen to podcasts and watch the show on YouTube. You can also find Ken across all social media by following @Ken Coleman.